So we start the show with breaking news, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Breaking news.
Yep.
On sale today. Icarus Fest 2024. And I can say this, that we made the website live last night, but didn't announce it anywhere. And we've already sold several VIP tickets. So, because we got a headliner set here that is has a lot a lot of fans. So yeah, I mean, if you're interested in coming, you better get some tickets soon, especially the VIPs. I mean, really, this is going to be a thing this year.
We literally didn't tell anybody. That's the thing. It's like, were they Googling it constantly? Like,
I couldn't believe it. Yeah, I didn't. And some people I'd never heard of, like, I think they were monitoring the website, waiting for it to go live. Actually, I guess, I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, and we're announcing it basically right now. This is the first public. I put it on Patreon a couple hours ago, but this is really the first public announcement. So get it, IcarusFest.com, and there's multiple ticket packages you can get. But a
little bit of something old, a little bit of something new. We got crazy. Two comedy nights this time. Right. Jimmy Dore the first night. So we got like Jimmy Dore, Max Blumenthal.
Who, by the way, also Jimmy Dore and Max Blumenthal are gonna do comedy sets and then do a full Q&A with the audience about anything. So it's really gonna be a Jimmy Dore, Max Blumenthal night fully. We need to make that clear. So if you're a fan of either of those guys, I don't know how you couldn't at least. I mean, these days, I don't see how you could really be serious about politics and not at least be aware of what these guys are up to. So yeah, that's Friday. And then we have Anna Kaczynski of Red Scare, of course, and Jack Mason of the Perfume Nationalist, who are an incredible team. But they're going to do a couple things, a couple panels. They're going to be also at the VIP events. And I'm very excited to talk to them. I'll be moderating the panels with them, and they will be available. So yeah, I guess people who watch this show probably know about Red Scare, and I'm sure at least many know about Jack Mason, the Perfume Nationalist. But you and I reference those two podcasts probably more than any other, especially the Perfume Nationalist. I would say that's probably the most referenced podcast.
By reference, you mean plagiarize?
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's like, what did we think of this movie? What does Jack say? So I mean, that was really what we organized much of the Icarus Fest programming last year around what Jack thinks about things. Honestly, like that's why and that'll be similar this year. I just think he's incredibly brilliant and funny as hell and an amazing persona in our world. Anyway, Michael Tracy, my goodness, who I just interviewed for Unregistered, and that's coming out soon, hopefully tomorrow. If Michael, you can get that done in time. Hilarious, awesome interview with Michael. We argued the entire time. He starts yelling at me when it begins, but what's funny is we realized that we agreed on everything about an hour into it. No, it's an incredible tour de force. We kind of covered the globe, and Michael has been to South Africa to cover BRICS. He's been to Israel recently to cover the war. He's been to Russia to cover the war. He's trying to get to Ukraine. He's been to Brussels multiple times to cover NATO summits. And he was telling me stories about meeting like all the great world leaders at these NATO summits because they didn't know who he was. So they thought he was safe, and they let him into these like private rooms with like, he met Modi. He was talking to Modi and Macron and all these guys, like the G7 meeting too. It's an amazing interview. But anyway, Michael Tracy, I'm sure everybody who watches this show knows exactly who that is and depends on him. These are people I consider to be essential. Like that's why we chose them. And we were really lucky to get these people. But these are people that I think you just can't understand what's going on in any serious way without paying attention to what these guys are saying. So
Michael Tracy also heavily plagiarized on this show.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's been giving it to the Trump supporters pretty hard, and I think he's one of the best voices on that, holding Trump accountable from.
Yeah, so that's as I said to him yesterday, like it's to me, he's just what's beautiful and unique, really. I don't think there's anybody like him in this way. I mean, he is relentlessly skeptical of everything. And so you can't pin him down. And actually, I did try to pin him down and like, well, what is your position on Ukraine? What do you think we should do about it? And he said, I don't actually have a prescription. I just analyze what's happening.
He's just a journalist with a good working memory.
He's just skeptical.
Yeah.
And especially of power and governments and states and all that, and of their mouthpieces. But yeah, I mean, I've said this many, many times. He's been on this show many times, Unregistered many times. Oh, good. We just added these names. I didn't even know we had these on the.
Yeah, they're on the site. Yeah.
Let's talk about the comedy. So Thaddeus Russell, a great comedian, will be there. He'll do several stand-up sets, hour-long, multiple nights. So that'll be good. And then Danny Polishuk, who I thought, to me, last year, I thought Danny's set was the best, my favorite out of everyone there. We had a huge comedy, showcase last year.
Mm-hmm.
Danny was my favorite. I said, who is this guy? And I found out all about him and started watching his videos. And I just think he's a hilarious, super talented comedian who's also pretty, as they say, based. And by the way, like, we don't share all the politics. I mean, he's got his defense of Israel going, not full-throated at all, but he's not, or I should say he's more like critical of the pro-Palestinian side. But anyway, Danny, I just think Danny's awesome and hilarious. And we have, obviously a mix of political views. It's one of the things that Icarus is about. We're just, all dissidents are welcome.
Yeah.
True dissidents. So,
well,
I think,
yeah, if the pro-Palestinian side is going to survive, they need to learn how to laugh at themselves.
Well,
that's their biggest flaw.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say this on Twitter. I should say it here too. And then we'll continue to Icarus, but yeah. Well, let's talk about that later. Yeah, we'll talk about that in the show. So, and then Robbie, my man, the Fire Bernstein. We should probably put his last name on there too.
Yeah.
Again, like I
put the fire.
What's that?
Just the fire. The fire will be there.
Yeah. So Robbie did a show basically in conjunction with an event we did 3 years ago in Texas. And I had never seen him before. I'd seen him on his podcast, sort of talking about politics. I'd never seen him do stand-up. And I had to say, just because I didn't know anything about him, and I thought, well, he's like a libertarian. I'm like, this is going to suck. But I went anyway, because it was sort of a nice thing that they did. They organized a comedy event, like just to be like across the street from our event. I think Robbie's awesome. I think Robbie's an awesome comedian, straight up stand-up comic. I just think he's got, again, he's sort of like Danny. There's like this, and maybe it's because they're Jewish, but there is sort of something in the Jewish cultural DNA going back to the Catskills and vaudeville. I mean, there's something, they got that thing that like some Jewish guys have had, that there's just a comedic temperament and disposition and sort of view of the world, perspective of the world that I just, you can't teach it. Robbie's awesome. And he's also, of course, politically quite searing in his critiques too. So really, I can't wait to see this. It's going to be a great showcase that's Saturday night. And it's emceed by Lou, the man Perez, who was our MC last year. Lou's the best MC I've ever seen work. And also a stand-up comedian who's going to do his own sets. And Lou's another political dissident, works for Foundation for Individual Rights and Education, FIRE. He's just a good civil libertarian. And Lou, like these last three guys, we don't agree on everything for sure. No, this is a good mix. This is really, look at the list. Can you scroll back up again? Like just slowly. Yeah. I think, and I said this to the Patreon group last night on Zoom for our patrons. To me, this like covers the four corners of the dissident world. It's like you just have every aspect. You have the dirtbag, what's called the dirtbag left. You have kind of various, there's sort of two wings of the dirtbag left, I think, represented by Tracy and Max and Jimmy Dore. And then you got like the libertarian corner. And then you got the sort of whatever you want to call the Jack Anna neo-reactionary, maybe. I don't know, whatever they are, but that vibe, which to me is covers the gamut. We don't have anybody who's worked for any sort of political campaign or party. Certainly no one who's ever worked in government. That pretty much gets you tossed out of the circle. You just can't be a dissident. So yeah, this is awesome. Get your tickets.
Yeah. I mean, Max Blumenthal did work for the SPLC.
Like when he was 14 or something, right? Like,
okay. Yeah.
Right? Teenager?
No. He was in his 20s.
Oh, really? But he's renounced them, completely renounced them, right?
I'm not sure if he has publicly. I don't know about that.
Oh,
yeah.
It has. I mean, he must.
Okay.
I mean, there's no chance. Max hates every liberal thing in the world. Like that's where he and I vibe. And that's also what, brings these people together here, by the way, at Icarus. And I've said this openly. You have to hate liberals, but you have to be an opponent of what I call the liberal establishment, which means both the government and its cultural institutions, and that's who these people are to me. This is really what the rise of the alt media in the last 10 to 20 years has been about. It's been about opposition. Oh, and Sam Husseini. We added him. Well, actually, that's not confirmed. We need to take that off.
Okay.
I took it off and someone put it back on. Anyway, Sam's not sure. He might be out of the country. I think he's covering some story in the Middle East, but he might be able to come. Anyway, forget what I was saying.
Oh, anti-liberalism uniting these people in some way.
Yes. Yeah. So the rise of the alt media in the last couple of decades is, to me, that's what it's been about. That's what makes us sort of coherent in general. The alt media makes sense as a movement in opposition to the liberal establishment. The Democratic Party, but all of its cultural supports as well. That's what I call, the universities in particular, the media, the mass media in particular, and the deep state, what's called the deep state, whatever, and the Democratic Party, which I still think has been always the dominant party in American politics in terms of setting the basic ideology, because the Republicans are sort of a junior partner in this American empire thing and always have been. Anyway, so yeah, if you are a good critic of that establishment, then I'm interested in you. And these are the best people who do that, in my view, the very best. That's what Icarus Fest is. And we do it with comedy and fun. We're going to be doing music. We're going to be doing lots of stuff also that's going to make this even more spectacular than last year. You're going to do, or you want to talk about the thing?
Yeah, the 3 words I never see follow my name are going to happen.
I know, I'm sorry.
A drum circle facilitator. This is going to be a real hippie festival, and we're going to play some real drums.
It's like, you got to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be amazing. Yes, but you're going to be making it really intelligent. This isn't dumb hippie stuff. This is smart hippie stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be informed hippie stuff, I guess. It's going to be high quality hippie stuff.
My friend, you're going to inform the masses of the central galactic importance of rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing more important in my view. I wrote a whole book about it.
Yeah.
It's called Renegade History of the United States, by the way. Oh yeah. So this, just real quickly, people can still sign up. We're in the midway through it. And I've had a lot of people sign up recently.
Real quick before we move on to that, promo code Unregistered 2024.
Oh, we'll get thank you. Yes, that's for. So this is for Icarus Fest.
Yeah.
Unregistered 2024. You get 10% off any ticket at Icarus Fest. And then go to Unregistered Academy if you're interested in the course on Renegade History.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was saying something about Renegade. I forget what it was.
Renegade History. We had the class last night.
I know, but that was in reference to something we just were talking about.
The centrality of rhythm.
Rhythm. Thank you. Right. So dance. I have a whole thing on dancing in American history, and in particular prohibitions against it, attempts to stop it, all its political meanings. But yeah, it's really important. So you're going to do a drum circle, and you're going to teach people how important this is.
Yeah.
You are a music people don't know this, but you're a music educator and a professional percussionist and drummer. I noticed we started following. You and I are now following similar drummers on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Jose Callo, is that his name?
Jose
Callo, Kalo.
Montana. Yeah.
Completely incredible chops. I've never seen such a thing. Yeah. Plays with a tiny little kit, and he's just like his chops are stupid.
The Cuban guy.
I guess is it? I think it's Kalo, Kalo, I think.
Yeah.
Last name. And then, but mostly, you know what I'm watching on Instagram? I've been watching Christian rock drummers, man. They're the best. No, they're not the best, but they're, you know what they're great at? All they do is play crescendos.
Yeah.
It's just there's no groove, never a groove. They just play crescendos, but they're the best at it. Like if you want to learn how to play fills within a crescendo, oh geez. All right, where were we? let's get to the news.
Okay. Yeah. So you want to talk about the World War III that's breaking out between Drake and Kendrick Lamar? Or?
I mean, what about Nicki's beef with that producer guy? No.
It's basically Drake against the entire rap industry.
Not everything has to be about black people. You know that, right?
Okay.
Not everything. They're not like amazing golden people. I mean, you know, they're just humans like everyone else, man. Okay, wait. Let's get to the wars. Come on, we gotta do it.
Yeah, it was interesting this week. What happened over the weekend? Iran launched a retaliatory strike against Israel after Israel bombed their embassy in Damascus. And I thought this was going to be like the big thing that everybody talks about. And I look at my podcast feed and like nobody's talking about this. They're talking about cultural issues. They're talking about little pocket funny conspiracy theories. And this is like really fizzled out when right when it happened. I thought we were really on the brink of World War III.
Me too. Yeah, Saturday. I remember where I was when I checked my phone and I saw that. I kind of freaked out. I mean, didn't freak out. I really panicked. I said on Twitter, I'm just terrified now. Got pretty emotional in the parking lot of a grocery store. Because I just couldn't imagine that Israel wouldn't retaliate massively. And when that happens, I don't see how there's any coming back from that. We can talk about all the dynamics there at play, but that could still happen. You know, I mean, it's on the brink. Now, one could say, and I've heard some pretty intelligent people who do know the history well, you know, Israel's always been on the brink. When has it not been on the brink of a massive regional or world war? Of starting one, I should say. Israel has always been on the brink of starting a world war. Always, because the superpowers have always been involved. The great empires founded the thing, and then the new global empires supported it. And then you had new competing empires like the Soviet Union and now Russia and China also in the game, involved in that part of the world. So, I mean, Russia has a military base on the Mediterranean in Syria, right there. Like you can drive to it from Israel. So, we're still where we were. I mean, there's still reason to be freaking out and thinking we're going to World War III. It's just that it's true. This has happened many, many times before. And in a sense, as I said, Israel's always been on the brink, which is another reason why Zionism was the worst idea ever, the stupidest idea, as Christopher Hitchens said repeatedly. Let me talk about some analyses I've been hearing and thinking about.
Well, real quick on this attack. Is it true there were no casualties? That it was just military targets, and then most of the missiles were intercepted by the Iron Dome? And
so all we know is what the IDF is reporting, or the Israel government is reporting, which is that a girl, I think it was a Bedouin girl, near the military base that was really struck, by the way, in southern Israel, was badly wounded. That's all. I don't know anything else beyond. No deaths. Which yeah. So I mean, okay. One way to go at it is, you know, who's more atrocious in what they do? You know, who's committed atrocities worse? You know, this side of which, okay, it's important to note that, you know, Iran apparently really did only target military bases and also directly hit 2 of them, one in particular in the south, and that Israel claims it was only minor damage, but hasn't released a single photo or video of the place.
Mm-hmm.
We can get into that, like, about, and also the second thing you can get hung up on is like how powerful the 2 militaries are, and oh, look at Iran, now they're big and strong and powerful and they can really take out Israel. I don't even know for sure. I mean, that's the story, and I know about all the missiles they have, which is in the tens of thousands, and they have hypersonic missiles apparently, but like they've never used them, so we don't know what they can really do. No, I think the more shrewd analysis is about the longer term, meaning historically back about 20 years. No, actually exactly 21 years. What is going on right now is the culmination of the Iraq War. This is we hope this is the end phase of the truly end phase of the Iraq War, which is the nation states in that and allied movements in that part of the world kicking the United States out. That's what this thing called the resistance, popular resistance, what's their name? All the various militias that Iran is either helping or not helping all around the region in Syria, Iraq, etc. The Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah. You could also say the Syrian government to some extent. This, I think it's been, I think sort of loosely organized, but it's been organized, I think, by Iran and maybe other actors since the Iraq War began, which was, okay, we got to get these motherfuckers out of here. And this is going to take a while because they landed 500,000 of their troops on our soil with all the tanks and then built bases all over the damn place. So they knew it was going to take a while, and that's one of the reasons Iran built vast underground bunkers all around the country with decentralized military units, each with missile batteries, which allegedly each contains hypersonic missiles that can hit Tel Aviv quite easily. But Israel has been the secondary target. The main objective, apparently, of this resistance movement, I would call it, is to eject the United States finally and completely from the Middle East. Now, I've been calling for the United States to be out of the Middle East entirely since I was born, pretty much since I could talk. And certainly in the last 20 years, that was to me always the answer to any question about U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. Get out. Whatever the question is, get out. Should they strike back against this terrorist or that terrorist? Should they leave troops in this country or that country? Should they invade this country or that? No, just get out entirely. Like every single troop, base, plane, asset, vehicle, bullet, withdraw it. The whole thing. And bring all of our military assets home and have them actually defend the United States of America. Which, as sort of an anarchistic kind of guy who doesn't trust the government at all, is fine with me. Like, to have a military that actually defends the country I happen to be living in, I'm okay with that in general, in principle. And in fact, I kind of prefer it. I'd prefer to live in a country where I know that I will be protected if there is some madman who wants to somehow invade us. So that's what these people in the Middle East, who are called the Iranian proxies, have been doing, but in real ways, not the way I've been doing it for 20 plus years. It was the only way it was going to happen. Here's another conceit of the anti-war movement since I was born, quite literally. The anti-war movement had nothing to do with ending the Vietnam War. People often take credit for that on the left and say, that's why they pulled out of Vietnam, was the anti-war movement. It had nothing to do with it. 1973 was when they pulled out the troops, and 75 was when they were finally gone. When was the anti-war movement started? 1964, 65. It peaked in 1968. That's when millions of people were marching all over the place against the Vietnam War movement. And Nixon was just starting to bomb the living shit out of Cambodia and Vietnam. So killed 1 million people after that. And then even after that, years went by before he finally pulled out the troops entirely. He He changed his tactics and he stopped sending in more. He took out a lot of ground troops and did more bombing campaigns, but it was still killing loads of brown people. So, no, we've had almost nothing to do with foreign policy decisions. Daniel Bessner's argued this, recent guest on Unregistered, and he's right. He's right all the way back. I mean, pick a war, look at the anti-war movement at the time, and you'll see it's completely immaterial in terms of its effects on policymakers. So what you have to have instead is a Viet Cong do it, right? The Viet Cong ended the Viet Cong ended the war. The Viet Cong expelled the Americans. The Viet Cong are the reason the US lost and the war was over and the killing stopped. You had to defeat the United States militarily, which by some miracle the Viet Cong did. And that's what's happening now in the Middle East, is that for 20 plus years, similar situation, basically a bunch of guerrilla peasant armies with stolen and makeshift weapons are shooting at these bases, and recently killed 3 American soldiers in one of those bases. And they're also shooting at Israel now and then, which is, another, basically it's an American military base, one giant American military base. That's certainly one of Israel's functions. I'm not saying that's all that Israel is, but it's most certainly for the United States, one of its functions. And they look like for the first time, they have a lot of support globally. And so right now they look like they have a chance of winning something, and they might have already won something, but this is the end of the Iraq war, we hope. Meaning we hope the United States takes the message and does withdraw, does pull out its troops. I mean, maybe they can leave Israel. I mean, I'm not even talking about it, Israel, just pull every US asset out.
Of the whole region.
Now, of the entire region, of every region outside of our borders. But let's start with the Middle East, because that's where we've done the most damage and endanger the entire world most severely, I think. So yeah, I mean, and also there are many of those militias that are not linked to Iran. Also, there are some Sunni militias and Shia militias that are all in this network of the resistance. But go look at them. They say that our primary objective is to expel America, the United States, the military. I mean, they're not about, some of them are religiously motivated, some are not, but they're all motivated by anti-colonial interests. They want the great Satan out of there. And don't we all? I mean, what is the argument? There is no argument left. Now that we're, basically energy independent, there's no argument, except for, I suppose, the Western allies, right? That's the only argument, that they need that oil flowing freely. That's the only argument to make for supporting Israel at this point. It is clearly a strategic liability now for the United States. It didn't used to be. It used to make some strategic sense. The Suez Canal was totally crucial for us, for our livelihood and our power and strength. So you had to have the 2 countries on either side of it, Israel and Egypt, in your pocket, which the United States achieved in the 1970s. That's why those 2 countries are the leading recipients of foreign aid. They get $3 to $4 billion a year, basically ever since then, to make sure the Suez Canal was sandwiched by our friends, because most of the oil for us too came through there, and Western Europe. And now it's and even Western Europe, a lot of it's pipelines. So it's a significant percentage of the oil to Western Europe. I don't know, it's like 30 or 40% maybe, I'm guessing there. But, that's the only, so even I think Europe could probably survive if the Suez Canal were seized by somebody in the Middle East. There's just no strategic reason. It's a liability. And I've heard multiple generals say this, and former generals say this. And of course, many, many geopolitical analysts, but some sort of liberal establishment types starting to question why we're supporting this crazy ethno-state in the middle of Arab land, which people have known since Truman's cabinet debated this, was a risky investment, a very risky investment. James Forrestal, Secretary of, I always mess this up, Defense, I believe at the time, said just that. He said, this is, if you support Israel, which they were debating in 1948, we'll have endless war, because they're in an ocean of Arabs, and it's going to be an exclusive ethno-state, and the Arabs are not going to accept it. And if we are attached to that ethno-state, we will be targets too, in perpetuity. It'll be a perpetual wartime state. And he didn't spell it out, but that's exactly what happened. I mean, if you want your children to be drafted into the army when they're 18, if you want to have bomb shelters in your neighborhood and know how to use them, and probably use them multiple times in your life, definitely use them multiple. Think about that. Every Israeli citizen has been in a bomb shelter multiple times. If you want your sons and daughters to be patrolling the West Bank and rousting Palestinian families out of their beds in the middle of the night and hauling them off, yeah, I mean, then this sounds like a good idea. Have an ethno-state in Palestine. Do that. And then 10 to 20, now it's close to 20,000 Jews, Israeli Jews, have been killed since 48 by Arabs who did not want them there for some legitimate reasons. I mean, it's just the most ridiculous project. Meanwhile, Jews have been flourishing like no ethnic group in world history. Where? In the United States of America. I mean, which ethnic group has been more successful than American Jews since 1945 in the world? Like, there ain't none. They have been wildly successful and completely safe, basically, in the United States. But no, we got to fund that thing over there that gets people killed, and lots of people killed. I'm not even talking about the brown people. So I wrote an article for the Daily Beast a long time ago about this. I said, forget the Palestinians and all the dead children and stuff. How about for Jews? What has this project done for you? I mean, I know Israel's a nice place to live, but it's not nicer than LA, where the Jews are doing great and they don't have to kill Palestinian children all day long. I mean, like, choosing to live in a country where you know that your children will be in the military and likely in a war, because they're always in a war, basically. They're always shooting. Every year they're shooting and getting shot at. So there we have it. No, that we don't have it. There's more to it. So here's the analysis, I think, of Iran's motivations here. At least we hope, because this is an all-around good thing, I think. Mohammed Marandi he's a professor in Iran. I mentioned him, I think, last week, maybe, or 2 weeks ago. And he's a professor at the University of Tehran. And he's an English literature professor. He's fluent in English. I think he spent a lot of time in America, so he sounds American. I'm not going to say he certainly doesn't work directly for the government. And I wouldn't say he's like he's not a stooge of the government or a mouth spokesperson for it. He's certainly sympathetic to at least the resistance. I'll say that. He's said that Iran has been doing this for 21 years. They're in no rush. And what has happened in the last 21 years is that the United States has set itself on fire and now is watching itself burn. The empire has had one failure after another, catastrophic failure after another, after another, after another. The entire region hates the great Satan and wants it out. Israel now is doing the same, setting itself on fire by what it's doing in Gaza, losing all global support. So what he's saying is Iran chose this kind of attack. It was a limited attack, but on a military base. It did real damage to show Israel. And by the way, the 99% of the missiles that were shot down, he says, and many people have said, those were decoy drones that took like 4 hours to get to Israel. They basically announced what was happening. They were followed by, I guess, hypersonic missiles, but the real missiles that they were using offensively, those Iran claims are what hit the military base. Who knows? We don't know. But it's plausible that that's what happened. So in other words, that it was a message to Israel that the game has changed, that the military situation has changed. You can't be the dominant hegemon anymore in this region. But it wasn't a massive strike, because what he's saying is Iran, the mullahs who run Iran, are basically just playing and watching these empires die on their own, like self-immolate. And I hope that's their strategy, because of course that means a lot less war. I think. And it's also, I don't want to call for, I'm not into cheerleading for, violent anything, but I do want the United States out of the Middle East. And I think I'm really hoping that is their strategy, because it seems to be working for one thing. The United States and Israel, certainly the United States, it seems impossible that the US empire will exist in its current form more than 5 to 10 years from now. So that's the good news. There's another development that's Alexander Mercouris has mentioned recently in a video, and this is only him, as far as I know, has noted this. And I don't know the names of the missiles, but apparently there's several categories of long-range, particular kinds of ballistic missiles that are, I guess, hypersonic or very high speed that can't be detected by radar, air defense systems, etc., that were originally invented and created in China or Russia, now are appearing in the arsenals of Iran and North Korea. And so he's surmising that Russia and China, probably mostly China, no, probably both, there's been a decision made to share that technology with their new allies in the sort of rising BRICS multipolar coalition. Military technology that's according to him, it's game changing. These missiles, he says, can take out aircraft carriers. They're designed to attack naval vessels, aircraft carriers specifically. And I forget how many carriers the US has now, but something like a dozen-ish. But so what are we talking about here? A US aircraft carrier getting blown up? That hasn't happened since World War II, since the Japanese did it in the Pacific way back then. Just that alone would be a complete game changer, because the US, it has been argued, I've heard US secretaries of Navy say this, and I think they're right. The US Navy alone is all the US needs it is so dominant, the Navy alone, which includes the Marine Corps, by the way, and has basically its own Air Force. If you actually punched a hole in the US Navy in that way and made it a real danger to sail close to Eurasia, that's what we're talking about. If Eurasia can't be penetrated by the US anymore, we know how important Eurasia is. Every geopolitical grand strategist, especially Brzezinski in 1997, have said, you must control Eurasia. This was to the US establishment. You must control Eurasia. That's the game. And that explains our policy against Russia, our hostile, unrelenting policy against Russia, because Putin and the Russian governments have stood in the way of the US conquest of Eurasia, as with China too. So according to Mercouris, and again, I haven't confirmed this at all, I don't know, but he's usually right about such things, and he has sources of information that no one else does. He's on the Duran. He says that there are missiles now in the arsenals of multiple countries that basically were supplied by Russia and China that can take out a US aircraft carrier. Well, I mean, if you are the Secretary of the Navy now, are you going to bring that into your considerations? If you're the Secretary of Defense and the President, are you going to weigh that now? Weigh that question when you want to send some ships to intimidate Iran now? Yeah, definitely. If they blow up an aircraft carrier and kill, how many is it? It's thousands of, what do they call them? Sailors on every aircraft carrier. Thousands, I believe. It's in the thousands. Those things are cities. They're floating cities. This is so, again, we're in the early stages of this massive shift, and both Dan Bessner and Michael Tracy are very skeptical that BRICS and the multipolar world will ever mean anything because the US is still militarily dominant, and they have a powerful argument. But boy, every week for the last 2 years, I have seen a new stunning development that looks like we're living in a new world. Mm-hmm. So, and Iran is becoming central in this. Yeah, we don't know yet, but boy, I wouldn't bet on the United States long term.
That's a much longer conversation about the future.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. There's a thesis that the elites don't believe in the United States either, and they're just looting the treasury while they can. And that's what the next couple elections are about. It's just, how many of our friends can we help out? How many giant omnibus bills can we pass to fill our own pockets? Which seems to actually be playing out.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is like the conversation Dan Bessner and I had about what he sees as the end of ideology in American politics, that American political leaders are no longer ideologically motivated, that they once were, largely, at least I think they were. I think he does too. Woodrow Wilson was a true believer in the American empire. I mean, he really believed in America, and he really believed in Christianity, and he wanted to spread those things. I mean, Roosevelt, all of them, Kennedy, for sure, Johnson, true believer. I mean, again, I think we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago. Like, you look at Biden, Sullivan, Blinken. Do these people really want to uplift the savages? Is that what's getting them out of bed in the morning? Maybe. Blinken, I could sort of see that. But how deeply felt is it? I mean, I think they're like half-hearted imperialists is the point.
I think Biden is nothing more than a careerist.
Yeah.
And I think most people in Washington are just careerists. I think Kamala is nothing more than a careerist.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But on this Iran attack, there's a piece in Jerusalem Post saying that they informed Turkey about the attack, and that there were some relations between the United States and Turkey, telling Iran to keep the attack within certain limits, was the quote.
Right.
Basically, that the United States might have had foreknowledge of this, which is why it didn't escalate. Maybe it was something that was allowed to happen to let things simmer off a little bit.
Yeah. Well, they literally had 4 hours. I think it took 4 hours for the drones to get there, which is, I mean, hilarious. Yeah. Did the U.S. know about it? I mean, I would imagine.
If it's like essentially economic warfare, because there are no civilian targets, there are no human targets. It's basically a show of force to Israel saying, if you want to do this, we can expend your resources to the point of starving you guys out.
Right. I mean, I said, yeah.
If it's just financial, the U.S. can just give more aid.
Yeah. The economic piece of it is crucial. I need to say this again. I said this recently, but like the thing that people need to realize, and I didn't fully get this until recently. It's like the enormous leverage that Iran has in all conflicts. The missiles it has can also very easily take out the military bases and all the oil fields in the Gulf states. They're right across the Gulf from Iran. I mean, that would plunge the world into a huge depression, So I mean, it would be economic terrorism of the highest order, but they can do that. That's their nuclear weapon. That's their nuclear option, which is almost as powerful as a real nuclear weapon. So, yeah. Gosh, man. So it's funny to be talking about the Iranian government in this way. Normally I'm, of course, not critical, but I'm always looking for opposition to Sharia law. That's my interest, mostly scholarly interest. It's what I've been researching for a long time. So I see Sharia law, repression in general, sort of puritanical repression as kind of the enemy. Don't question it. I don't think about it, but and I look for the opponents of it. And Iran is the biggest question for me about what's really been going on there, because it's, we have this famous movement in the streets of women throwing off their hijabs and, people shouting at the morality police. And of course, Iran is full of all sorts of American style decadence. And these mass movements in the streets recently. I don't know how mass they were, and I don't know how much the organizations allied with the CIA had to do with it. I know that the CIA, the National Endowment for Democracy, and God knows what other agencies have been up to their necks in Iranian society for decades and have infiltrated all sorts of places and paid people to go to protests. I just don't know how many. So I don't know how authentic it is. But I do know, Sharia law is not my cup of tea. It doesn't, of course, it's immaterial to the question of whether we should go to war with Iran. It doesn't change my position on the foreign policy here at all. Withdraw from the Middle East, let those people work it out. If they want to live under Sharia law, so be it. I was looking at the history of Hamas in Gaza imposing Sharia law. And I got to say, the movement, the Palestine solidarity movement is not my favorite bunch of people in general. For one thing, they're always wearing masks, even outdoors. And it's very weird. Every time I go to a Palestine march, most people are wearing masks. It's just very, very strange. These are the worst of the left in general. They just happen to be right on this one question. I was thinking, and they're shutting down bridges and, shutting down O'Hare airports and causing people incredible untold suffering and probably killing some people too who can't get to the hospital. You shut down the Bay Bridge, you can kill people for sure. I was thinking that, and I want to put this on Twitter, one of the worst things that's happened to the Palestinian people is that their largest allies in the world are the American left.
There's a Nazi conspiracy theory that
terrible.
Jewish Voice for Peace is secretly a Zionist organization, and that they exist only to give a bad name to the pro-Palestinian movement by blocking streets and being as bad optics as possible for that movement.
Yeah, right. The American left is so grotesque. It's literally grotesque now. I mean, I see them and I am physically revolted by them. And the mask thing is just so strange. I don't know even what to do with that. So Sharia law, though. So Hamas comes to power. I mean, sort of beginning in the early 2000s, takes control of the de facto government, 2005-6, kills the Fatah rivals, sort of famously. Although the real story, according to Robert Wright, and I'm sure he's right about this because Robert Wright's no weird radical, is that the Bush administration, what was it? They had some very nefarious role in this where they basically took Hamas's side, I think it was, or they participated in it directly in a way that ensured that Hamas would become victorious and take control. And then, of course, Netanyahu supports Hamas constantly and gives them, or finances, or facilitates the financing of Hamas. And by the way, I recommend a debate recently, I think yesterday, 2 days ago, Zero Hedge debates.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Smith and Batya Ungar Sargon, two friends of the show, and Cenk Uygur, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and Dennis Prager on Israel. And Cenk's fine, actually. This is one of the few cases where, like, I agree with Cenk in general. He's pretty good. He starts yelling a lot. Dave is outstanding, and he makes this sort of, I think, the body slam argument for people who are not generally inclined to care one way or the other about Israel-Palestine, about how Netanyahu has supported Hamas deliberately and cynically for political reasons. And it's known. This is not even contested. And you cannot, then he says something like, you cannot use Hamas to justify, you therefore cannot use that group to justify killing all these people.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing moment. I'd never seen that argument made that way. Yeah. And then, love Batya. And it's sort of, I guess what I want to say to her and to several friends of mine in the media who are making these arguments, I guess I would just like to ask that when you're making an argument that you've heard on behalf of Israel, just check to see its source, and can almost guarantee you that almost all of the time, the argument will be traced to some Israeli government agency. I mean, or AIPAC, which is an Israeli government agency, essentially. It's incredible how many times I hear talking points that I know came from only one place. And there are arguments to make on behalf of Zionism that are not from the government. There are independent arguments to be made that have been made on behalf of Zionism and Israel and the war in Gaza that I've heard. Recently, I've heard arguments for the war in Gaza that were from a person's own mind and their own information. It didn't come from the propaganda machine, from Hasbara. But boy, a lot of what I heard from Batya and a lot of what I hear from a lot of friends of mine who are making these arguments, and that's what makes me sad. It's that they believe this government, or any government, because these are people who are normally extremely skeptical of government and anti-government. But when it's the Israeli government, they believe them. It's just stunning to me. And so, but even if you're listening and you're not in the media, do that. Next time you hear some claim, some argument on behalf of Israel, check where it comes from. See if there's some independent source for it. And I'm telling you, you'll see how amazing the Hasbara machine is. It is extensive and vast, and it's just unfortunate that many people that I know who are otherwise very intelligent and very, very, as I said, skeptical of government, have allowed it to penetrate their minds in very strange ways. It's like, imagine believing what the United States State Department says, or the Pentagon about anything, or the Interior Department, or or the president's economic advisors. That's all we do normally. These people do all the time is just cast doubt on what the government says, right? These are basically anti-government people. But when it comes to Israel, oh no, those are the good people. And if basically they're right and good. And they flatly deny that nobody in the IDF would deliberately kill a civilian. That's outrageous. I know, because I know these people. I've heard that argument by good intellectuals. It's like, we kind of know for a fact at this point. The guy who shot up the aid workers, the World Central Kitchen aid workers, the commander who ordered that, turns out, where is he from? Where does he live? Anyone guess? West Bank settlement. And yes, he's an ultra right-wing fanatic who has called for the elimination of Palestinians. And they had to relieve him of his post because of what he did. Of course, we know this. The settlers are complete genocidal maniacs. I mean, I've never seen a settler who isn't genocidal. Every time they talk, it's based on the Bible. No, we got to get rid of those people. Anyway,
yeah,
still a good debate. Really good debate. I recommend.
Yeah, really good debate. Most of the debates have been really disappointing, and Dave Smith really knocked it out of the park. It was an interesting concept to have like a handicap partner for each side. You have Batya handicapped by Dennis Prager, and Dave handicapped by Kank, and so
Kank.
Yeah.
Kank. Yeah. When Jank started yelling and even Dave was just sort of smirking at him, I just thought, wow. Yeah. I was on Jank's show a long time ago, and I was underwhelmed with the guy. He clearly had not read my book. He was interviewing me for half an hour about my book, didn't know anything about it. He was just a blowhard. And he generally is. It's just, again, it's really unfortunate. The poor Palestinians. Your biggest ally is the American left. I'm so sorry about that. I'm trying to change that. I'm doing everything I can to change that. because the American left is a steaming pit, is just a grotesque menagerie of people we don't want running society at all. Narcissistic, you name it. Not good people. And yeah, Cenk's kind of part of that. But yeah, Dave is the man. Dave needs to lead us. No, it's amazing. Like one of our greatest geopolitical analysts is a stand-up comedian.
Mm-hmm.
He is. I'd put him up there. He's like, probably in the top 20 or 30 geopolitical analysts out there. Yeah. Dave Smith. Hell yeah. Right? And, I mean, who knows? It's amazing.
Well, most of his research for that debate was from the Martyr Made podcast.
Was it?
Yeah. So that was nice.
Daryl Cooper.
Yeah. He's been the best on the whole issue.
I think he gets a lot from Scott Horton too.
Mm-hmm. That too, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The good libertarian anti-war vibe, which I no longer hang out with them. It's not really my orientation anymore. The geopolitical realists are where it's at for a lot of reasons. I mean, I love the anti-war guys. I think they're generally right about stuff, and I'm still trying to figure out the difference between the two camps. Well,
the paleocons is the bridge from one camp to the other.
Yeah,
they're the ones who actually had jobs and
had
influence at some point.
The Pap Buchananites, the paleocons. Yeah, I mean, they're in some ways my favorites, actually.
Same.
On foreign policy, yeah.
But I bring up Dave Smith to say the libertarian Thomas Massey was the only Republican no vote in the House on the resolution condemning the slogan "From the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free" as anti-Semitic. He was the only lone no vote in Republicans. And he was the only lone no vote condemning the attack that Iran did on Israel and saying that Israel has every right to retaliate with economic, military, or any other means that they have. So. Wait,
what's Massey's position?
I don't know beyond it, but he voted no that.
Oh, he voted no against Israel's right to retaliate.
Israel's right to respond through aggression, through military, diplomatic, economic, and other necessary means.
And did he say it was because of the strike against the consulate?
I didn't hear his justification beyond that, but I just know he's been consistent on this, that he basically has seen through this issue the whole time and isn't falling for the framing that every other Republican is.
Anti-Semite.
Yeah, He's the one. Yeah, exactly.
He sees that it's a Jewish conspiracy. He's the one who sees. Yeah.
No,
it's. I want to be clear. It's not a Jewish conspiracy. It is a conspiracy of some Jews.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Israel is.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, all Jews become the scapegoat for that small group of Jews.
Thank you. Exactly. Thank you.
And
exactly.
Yeah.
We're going to go over here, start an ethno-state. We're going to say it's in your name. We're going to kill a whole bunch of people for it. Do you mind?
Mm-hmm.
That's what Israel is. For every Jew I know, like they're like, wait, what? You guys didn't ask me about this? What do you?
Yeah.
You're not doing this for me. That's the justice. What's it called? The one, the Jewish group, Jewish Voice for Peace.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good slogan. Not in my name.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Got to give them that.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't wear the mask with it.
Yeah, but that's the one problem though with the Yaakov Shapiro argument is that only Jews are only people who feel obligated to follow the Torah. That's his argument. But the problem is there are too many people who won't give up their feeling of ethnic pride to follow that.
Yeah. What an amazing what an amazing guy. He just skewered so much of recent Jewish history, just totally nailed it. Basically everybody I know identifies as Jewish, even though they're not religious at all, so that they can claim victim status. That's what's at bottom. So they can say stuff about the Holocaust and have legitimacy from that. That is why I know people in my family have done that. I see it. It's so gross. Or to sort of find an identity, like when you're an adult. Oh, now I'm Jewish, and that means who I am. That's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're not. It's, as he says, it's a book of rules. It's a set of rules that you have to follow. And when you follow them, you're Jewish. It's that simple. These people wouldn't know. They don't even know how to keep kosher, much less do.
Mm-hmm.
Not Jewish, you fakes. Yeah. Which, by the way, that's the origins of Israel. It's all non-Jewish Jews, meaning non-Jews, meaning Israel was founded by not Jewish people. David Ben-Gurion was an atheist. Give me a break.
A God that we don't believe in and feel no obligation to follow promised us.
Give me a break. My best Israeli friend is a Marxist atheist, lives in Tel Aviv. I'm like, what the hell? How are you Jewish again? He makes fun of religious people. He makes fun of religious Jews. They look down. Oh, a lot of Tel Aviv people hate the Jerusalem religious Jews. They're embarrassed by them. I'm like, who's the Jew here? What is going on? No, you're not. It's a Zionist state. It's not a Jewish state.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to go beyond the paywall now.
Okay.
Yeah. Short
Ukraine,
episode
really quick. Ukraine, we didn't talk about Ukraine.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to say one thing about it. So, or real quick, couple minutes. Yeah. So there is, on my Twitter a couple days ago, I posted this. I recommend people just take a minute and look at it because it really brings home what we did in Ukraine, what we got for all of our money and weapons. There is this guy, Fennec Radar, on Twitter, who posted 100 videos of him, I think, driving by Ukrainian military cemeteries and just showing what, here's one of 100 videos. And they're just vast fields of graves with Ukrainian flags on them. Endless. They just go and go and go and go and go. So because the Ukrainian government lies so ridiculously about this stuff, no one knows how many are dead, but all the credible estimates I've seen is 6 figures. And most people are saying it's between 1 and 300,000. My guess is it's somewhere around 200, but it's 6 figures. All right. So we're talking about one of the largest wars of the last 100 years. You know, this was getting into World War II levels. Maybe you could consider it to be World War II levels for one country. Mm-hmm. The amount of territory that Russia holds now is the equivalent to what it held 2 years ago. And of course, the war is lost. It's over. I mean, only Zelensky and Victoria Nuland pretend that they can still win. Most of the Western media has said that it's over at this point. You know, I think we now have I think even the State Department and Defense have said things that suggest that they are taking a new tack. Even Victoria Nuland said it's time for asymmetric warfare, you know, basically saying the war is over. Russia controlled the Donbass and Crimea 2 years ago, and today it controls Donbass and Crimea. And probably 95% of those graves were produced in the last 2 years, producing exactly nothing. And we are now getting ready to spend another, is it 100 million, 100 billion, 60 billion?
There's a $100 billion aid package, the majority of which is going to Ukraine. I think 14 billion of which is going to Israel. That's being proposed. It's not fully public yet, but that's the projections.
Yeah, which will largely support this asymmetric warfare, mm-hmm. which is a lot of terrorist attacks and sort of an ongoing guerrilla terrorist war.
And this is something Michael Tracy has pointed out. This is the work of Speaker Mike Johnson, who Trump has been completely uncritical of and entirely supporting.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Trump is a complete...
So,
yeah, wish-wash on this one. No, it's just... when I was looking at those videos and all those dead men, I just thought, this is what we got. This is what we got for our money. That's what I said on Twitter.
That's
it's
good.
Beyond. It's beyond. I can't. Yeah.
It's a good thing to think about on tax day also.
Yeah, and the other reason why there's all those dead men in those fields, and this is really real, one of the major reasons why, a study just came out, Glenn Deason, I think, just referenced this, showing that the most cited expert source by the mainstream media on Ukraine war is the Institute for the Study of War, the think tank, the ISW. That is the source. That is the source most cited by mainstream media on the Ukraine war. Who is the ISW? Well, it's run by the Kagan family. Robert Kagan, Victoria Nuland, and their family members run the ISW. These are neocons. This is the neocon think tank with a special particular investment in Ukraine because that's been Vicky Nuland's project for about 20 years. That's who the New York Times, the CNN, and MSNBC use for their analysis of how the war is going and what should be done in the war. That is largely why I would say the United States has supported this killing field for 2 years, because the American public was duped into it by the neocons. Good job, neocons. Once again, congratulations. A field of dead bodies for you. Sorry, fields and fields of dead bodies for you. All right. On that happy note, if you want to join us and hang out, talk more geopolitical strategy or anything, or who the best drummer in the world is or the best rapper, go to patreon.com/unregistered. And we go to Unregistered Live right after this show. And it's a Zoom meeting. You can be completely anonymous. Don't have to show your face or name. We don't have to know you're there. Come just watch. You can come yell at me or ask questions or hang out. Mostly we just have fun and play around and talk about stuff. I'm there every night, every Thursday night. Patreon.com/unregistered. Join at any level and you can come into the Zoom room. All right, my friend. I'll see you over there.
Yeah, IcarusFest.
Icarus Fest.
Promo code unregistered 2024. Get your tickets while you can.
And Unregistered Academy. Check out the Renegade History course.
Yeah, 2 live courses left, right?
For that, 2 live sessions.
Left.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And you can watch the streaming video too if you sign up for the course. So you won't miss anything.
Dope.
All right, man. Thank you. Awesome. Peace.
Cool. Peace. Yeah. See ya.